Another great animation technique, and again this one has a lot of uses, is some text wiping, or we have text that's staggered in, and let me show you what I'm talking about. This is part of the tutorial that you're going to learn now, is this option where you see the text. They call this blind, Venetian blind. In PowerPoint, I believe it's called Venetian blinds, or blinds, or swiping, or wiping text. And so what it is it's very detailed masking technique that basically is masking out each piece of the text, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Another way to do this is I created also another option, but this time what I did was I created this option with drops of rain or circles, and let me show you. If I hit enter on this one, notice how it all comes in, and we see right here where there's still a little, it's still fluid, it's still fluctuating. Let me show you. What's happening is the dots come in and they expand and they get smaller. This animation actually looks like this. I'll show you. This is the dot, okay, and this dot animation, and I'm just going to show you this one animation, looks like this. So if we look at the dot, it gets smaller, then it expands and gets bigger. We could actually change this animation right here so that it gets smaller here. So what we have is this big dot, it gets really small here, and then it expands back out, okay. We could make this dot get really small before it gets bigger. These are the kinds of things that once you've designed your animation, once you've put all this together, you can go in and tweak it. You can pretty much do whatever you want, and watch what happens now. So we'll go back to this animation, we'll lock it, we hit Control Enter, and here's the animation, and you can see all the dots. And what we did was we staggered the dots. We had to put a lot of dots on there in the first place. So if we were to look at what this looked like, you can't see it real well right now, but if I were to double click this, you'll see that all the dots all have different locations. So when the animation is finally finished, it looks like this. In fact, any of these dots, if we don't like their location, as long as they're covering text, we can have these dots come out anywhere. And the idea is that they need to be covering the text that's underneath it. So these dots can pretty much be any way we want when it comes to putting this together. I want you to remember that the idea is to cover as much of the text as possible, otherwise it's just not going to work for us. And then all the dots are staggered out. We have a stop action at the top of the animation right here to stop it from going any further. And again, what we're doing here is just kind of playing with the animation. So again, let's look at this animation. We'll lock everything up in the masking layers, hit enter, and this is what it looks like. And you can kind of see the dots are still moving around, so let's hit it again. Notice they come in and they're still kind of moving around. And that's okay. If we wanted to go in and make it look like water dropping on here, we could definitely do that. We could add some really cool animation characteristics to it to really give it a nice look. But what we're doing is we're masking this out, okay? And we're trying different techniques. Again, this technique here on the top of this one is affecting this layer. Let me turn that off. And this masking technique actually here is the swipe. And this is the one I'm going to show you today. It's pretty easy. The dots are even easier. Once you get it down, you can pretty much do whatever you want over anything. It doesn't have to be text. It can be a graphic. It can be a way you make the graphic come in. It can pretty much be whatever you want it to be. So this is kind of that fun stuff that you get to be a little creative with. There are different ways to do this. And this is just one way, and the circles is another way. I'm sure there are tons of ways you can think of doing this. So let's go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in here and get rid of I'm going to open my library window, and I'm going to get rid of all of this because I'm going to show you how to do it. So I don't want to do anything here redundantly. So let's go ahead and we'll get rid of all of this. because I don't want to go in and give you any, I don't want I want you to see exactly how we do it from start to finish. Okay? All right, so my layer one is this educateonline.org, students learning via distance education. If I want to change this and get some color in there, I can. You know, the idea is that what we're doing is we're working on one particular thing for a website, let's say, or it could be a title, it could be an ad. You know, you guys are going to start getting to a point where you want to make some probably little ads, column ads or row ads or some type of ad for a website. Flash is really, really easy. In Flash, it's easy to do that, and it's very flexible. So, you know, the only thing that limits us with Flash is our imagination. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grab this square box, and I'm going to draw a box in layer 2, and I'm just going to click this box like that. And because now we could do this box straight across this way if we wanted to, and that would be fine. We angled it in the video, so that's not a problem. In fact, if we want, we can just go ahead and use this box straight up. The concept's still going to be the same. What I want to do is I'm just going to show you how to do this. And I'm going to come in here and turn this, grab this, click out. I'm going to click back in. I'm going to modify this, convert to symbol. I'm going to leave it a movie clip, and I'm just going to call it bar. Now I'm going to double click so that I get in the movie clip. And what we are going to do is give this bar some motion so that when it's going across the timeline, it's got some motion to it. It's bigger or smaller so that it looks, we're going to give it an interesting look, needless to say. This is going to be its final look though, so I'm going to go ahead and right mouse click, insert keyframe here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this bar smaller. I'm just going to go here and make it small like this here. Okay. And one of the things I'm going to do when I do this is I want to make it so that when you first see it, we're not getting a double blip. We're not having it go from this to the smaller, and in a minute you're going to see what I'm talking about. But I'm going to insert a blank keyframe here. And I'm going to switch positions. I'm going to move this right there so that, oops, well, let's just go back here, insert keyframe. So now I have my, oh goodness me, let's do all this all over again. Let's try again. Undo, 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 undo. Alright, grab your keyframe and switch positions with it. So move it there so you have a blank keyframe here. The reason I do that is because when I go in, I want to be able to see how big my image is. Because if I put this out here, okay, if I drag the image, and let's unselect this. Let's not make this a mask for right now. My image, I'm going to double click on this, get back into here. Crud. Let's go back and we'll get into the window and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here's the bar. I need to put, this is the current image right here, is this little teeny small image. Let's take this out of here. I'm going to delete this keyframe and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Delete. I'm going to drag this bar right here. Let's go back in here. Let's get rid of this blank keyframe because this is kind of screwing us up. I'm going to clear the frame. So what I have now is this little bar. I like making these mistakes so you can see how screwed up I am sometimes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this bar I'm going to make this bar, place this bar here. The problem with this bar right now is that it's not at its full height. So when I go to line all of these up, I don't want to line it up on this little bar, because I'm going to have a ton of little bars and it's going to really screw up my animation because they're going to overlap and I'm not going to know what it looks like in its original format. Because here we are. Here's what it looks like when it's big, and here's what it looks like when it's small. So it's over half the size of it. when in its normal size right here. So because I'm going to go in and I'm going to back these up, overlapping them. I don't want to do it when it's this small because I'm going to have 3 bars and my animation is going to look really funny. It's going to look pretty screwed up, so I don't want to do that. That's why I want you to go in and we're going to insert, just go in here, insert a blank keyframe, and I'm going to take my original keyframe, grab it, move it so that my blank keyframe is in front. Okay, so click off, click into it, move it with your left mouse key, and that gives that to you. So again, I'm going to right mouse click, insert blank keyframe, come here, switch positions, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this big fat keyframe. So I'm going to go Control C, I'm going to right mouse click here and paste frame. Well, I thought I was. Let's do this. There we go. Nope. Copy, come over here, insert, paste frame. Okay, so what I have now is that nice big fat bar that I can work with. So when I come here, what we're going to do is we're going to set up this animation and we're going to copy these bars all the way across. Okay, but I want to make sure that I'm even and I'm in the right position. So use your arrow key if you have to. And I'm in the right position. We'll talk about why this on the little skinny bar has the little registration point in the center right here, and we'll talk about that more. But for right now, I'm looking at this to make sure my text is covered, because I want to make sure all of my text is covered. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit Control C, then I'm going to hit Control V, which is paste in place. I'm going to hold the Shift key down. I'm going to move this over, and I want to move it just enough so that I can butt it up, and once it's together I want to hit the arrow key to the left 3 times, or 2, or just as long as you know that they're overlapped. Alright, now I'm going to come back. Oops, let's hit this one more time. It looks like we went down. Alright, now I'm going to come back and grab these 2, hit Control C, Shift Control V, which means paste in place, hold the Shift key down, pull these out, scoot them over with the arrow buttons, and then once it's overlapped, hit it 1, 2 times just to make sure we've got it overlapping. Now I'm going to grab all 4 of these. I'm going to hit Control C, Control, Shift, V, which is paste in place, and if you don't believe me, look up here, Edit, paste in place is Control Shift V. Alright, and then I'm going to come back down here, hold the Shift key down, grab these, move them over. 1, 2, so that they're overlapping. I'm going to grab this whole slew, and this makes it a little easier, so this is a little time consuming, but wait till you see what we have to do to animate this puppy. That's the time consuming. Control C, Control Shift V. Pay attention to how many times you do that, because you don't want to have extra pieces in there. Okay. 1, 2, good. And finally, this should probably be our last one. If we hit Control Shift V, we're going to get another section. Hold the Shift key down and I'll just drag that completely over. Oops. I don't want to convert it to symbol, silly. Let's do this again. Hold the Shift key down, move these over. Good. And make sure they're overlapped. Alright, so here I am. Let's see if we have any extra. Not quite sure what's going on here. Show all. Good. If I have any extra, hit delete. Nope, I need that one, so we'll go ahead and hit Control V, undo. And I want to grab all of these now. And I'm going to convert this to a movie clip, and I'm going to call it bar animation. Hit OK. And so now I have this one big huge bar that's an animation. I want to animate it, so I'm going to double click on it, and it takes me into the bar animation. These are all selected. we want to leave them selected because now we're going to distribute them to their own separate layers. They got to be in their own separate layers, otherwise it's just not going to work, because we're going to move each one of these bars so that it can work in the mask. So hold Control, Shift, and D for distribute, and notice, woo-woo, lucky us, it went in and put all of these bars on their own separate layers. If we notice, we click this one and it turns it off. We click this one, it turns it off. Good. We click this one, it turns it off. Okay, now comes the fun part. This is the part where we now have to go in and do some stuff. Okay, we got to move this stuff around because we want the animation. If we were to hit it right now, it doesn't do anything. Notice it's not doing anything. And one of the reasons is because we obviously don't have this set up as a mask. But notice if I go to hit enter, that's what it does. It's all opening, it's wide and closing. These little marks here are the smaller lines that are closing, that are never going to, that you're not going to see until it opens all the way wide. So these little ones are that wide, that little bar, and then when it opens completely wide, you see that. So you have like a flashlight effect. And I guess if that's what you're looking for, you could do that. That'd be okay, but we don't want to do that. And remember, when we're working within the animation, one of the things that we have to do is put each bar on its own separate layer, because it will not animate them all at the same time. It won't let the animation run. It'll let the first one go, but it won't let any others go. So we need to change that, move that around so it looks better. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stagger where these bars come in at. I'm going to grab two at a time, holding the Shift key down, selecting them, and then just moving them over one frame. I'm going to do the next two bars, same thing. I'm going to do the next two bars, move them, same thing. I'm going to do the next two bars. And the reason it looks like you can't see anything but these two is because there's nothing in these frames out here to show us anything. We're not going to see anything till we get to add all of the frames. So what we're doing now is we're just kind of staggering these so that our animation is going to run and give us that nice wiping look, or that Venetian blind look. So I'm going to grab this, drag them across, grab these two, hold the left mouse button key down, drag it across, move up my line, grab these two, drag them across, and then finally my last two, I'm going to drag those two and drag them across. So now what you see are the last two, because if we move the frames down or the layers down, you'll see that it moves like that. That's what it looks like. Okay, if I were to test this right now, go back and lock that up and hit enter, it just looks like someone's putting a flashlight. And this is kind of how you would do a flashlight if you wanted to do a flashlight and move this across this way and then have it come back and move back and then come back to the center, and then you would have this one graphic where all of a sudden the circle would get really big and show you everything. You could do that. I mean, this is, masking has got a lot of great flexible uses, but this is what it looks like right now, and guess what? This is not what we wanted to do. All right, so we go back into our animation. So let's go back into here. We're going to do what we always do and insert a keyframe here and then put a stop action on that. So we really want to come down here. Open, open, open. Put a stop. Okay. And terminate that. Close the action panel. And we're back to here. Let's go show all. Now what we want to do is we're going to grab these where there aren't any frames at this last group here. Right under it, we're going to grab those frames. We're going to select left mouse key, hold it all the way down, dragging down all the way down to the bottom. Right mouse key, insert frames. So now we're back to showing our full animation. And now when I come back over here, if I turn my animation on, it looks like this. Let's see how it looks now. And it's good, but it's got some problems. It's still got some issues. So let's go back in here. And one of the things that we want to do here is we're going to go ahead and obviously put a stop action here as well. I'm going to come in here, put a stop action, hit stop, and close that, hit Control S. Oh, let's check our stop action. Something's going on. Let's go in here and look and see what's going on. Make sure everything's working. Oops. Come up here. We got our stop here. Yep. Okay, good. One of the other things we need to do is remember when we put that big fat let's go all the way down here and play with that. Remember when we put that in that bar animation, we have this one little bar and we have that right there. We need to take him out. That needs to come out so that when we're looking at the scene, all we did was we used that for measurement. This way, this needs to come out. The other thing that we needed to do, by the way, that I forgot to do was we're going to add a layer here. This is our bar animation. We need to put a stop action here because what's happening now is that it's looping. We don't want it to loop. We want this animation to stop just like we want all the other animations to stop. And I forgot to say, gosh, we need to do a shape tween here. Okay, so we need to go do a shape tween. So now when we look at this, all right, we see nothing here. We shouldn't see anything. We got nothing. Because that one little bar that pops up is no longer there. We only used it to be able to look at the sizing when we had to line those bars up. Alright, so now if I look at this, let's see how it looks, and boom, looks good. Again, Control Enter, and what it's doing is it's laying them all up and it's sweeping across. Now this is straight up and down. You could do it diagonal, you could do it, I mean it's from left to right, you could do it top to bottom, you could do it diagonally. Remember the drops when we did our raindrops, we could do it with our raindrops as well. And again, if we wanted to turn this into a button, what could we do? You bet, use that invisible button again. Let me show you how we did that again. So the invisible button, we're just going to come in here and I'm going to put a button, another layer, and I'm just going to call it invisible. Invisible button. I'm going to come in here, I'm just going to grab a box. Now, do we want it to be the whole image or just the URL? Okay, and again, we can do that pretty easily just by coming in here. See how big we need to make it. We'll just move it out just a smidge. Perfect. Okay, let's modify this. Convert to symbol. Let's make it a button. We're going to call this invisible button too. Hit OK. Now we're going to go into the invisible button and play. I'm going to grab this. We're going to double click on it, grab it. And remember that what we want to do here is we're going to take that color and do what with it? Well, we're going to come in here and get rid of that color. We don't really necessarily need it, so it's not that important to have the color, okay? And we want to remember that. So I'm just going to alpha tween this to 0. And I do it at the scene layer, not at the button layer, because if we click on the button, you know, we still have it there, but where we don't want to see it is right here in this section. So when we go to put the button there, so if I go hit Control Enter, and it turns it into a button. So if I want to go ahead and program this, and again, it's easy enough to do. Remember, oops, what we're doing is we're going to go ahead, select that, make sure it's invisible button. We're tracking it as button. And then here it's on, release, when we got that. We're going to open the program, get URL, and then we get the pop-up prompt which says, okay, what do you want to do? Say this, educateonline.org. Oh, HTTP, we need absolute address. Okay, whenever we're doing this, we need an absolute address. .org, close the quote, comma, underscore, blank. You should be pretty familiar with this by now. Oops, put the quotation in front. End our term, terminate it, and then close the bracket. And if everything works out right, as we hope, and it should, we're going to Control Enter. Our button is available. If we click on it, we should get educateonline.org. Okay, you can pretty much, again, remember that in the beginning of the video we used our little dots here. So again, if I drag this layer up here, okay, and I'm going to put my invisible button up here too, and my stop action's already there. So if I click here, I'm going to turn this one off so I don't have to worry about it. Hit Control Enter. It didn't work because I got rid of all my little round raindrops, my little circles here. So yeah, it didn't work that way. Darn it, I was too far ahead. Okay. By the way, drag those under the layers. You could have several different types of layers or masking here in one shot, so that if you decided you wanted something different, you just go in and turn the mask off, move it, move the item that's going to be masked under that particular mask, and use that. So there's different ways to do this. I want you to have fun. Try it out, experiment like I did. Try it with a graphic. Put this together, use something different, or do something so that when you submit this assignment, wow me. We're at that point now where I think you can wow me. The only thing limiting you probably is your imagination. So try and have some fun with it. Remember, this is supposed to be fun. So if you have any questions, give me a call, email me, or stop by my office hours. And this is the end of our wiping text tutorial.